Welcome to Faith, Hope, and Stories. There are many people in our coastal community planting seeds of faith, hope, and love. Some you may know already, and others you don't know yet. They're your neighbors, and they have a calling, a mission, a purpose. These are their stories. Faith, Hope, and Stories is a production of Epworth United Methodist Church in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Welcome to another episode of Faith, Hope, and Stories. If you attend our services here at Epworth or watch them online, no doubt you have seen our guest, the woman in black, Sandy Roca. She's our American Sign Language interpreter, and sometimes I find myself paying more attention to her than what I probably should be paying attention to in church, because you're so intriguing to watch. She has 40 years of experience with Delaware schools throughout the state, serving the needs of the deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind, and I did not know about the blind part. And she recently retired from that full-time job, but she still interprets all over, museums, sporting events, shows, hospitals. She told me she has to be ready at a moment's notice in case someone falls on the pickleball court and needs shoulder surgery in her services. She was born in Wilmington and found her way down here full-time about 5 years ago. What inspired her to this calling and how she wound up at Epworth are both great stories. So I'm not going to dilly-dally. Let's dive right in. Sandy, thanks for being here today.
Sure thing.
Tell us about how you first thought about this as your calling. You told me a great story.
So I think I was in maybe fourth grade, and my mom brought me, my two sisters, and she brought us to the Children's Playhouse Theater in Wilmington, and they had a show called The Miracle Worker.
Uh-oh.
It's the story of Helen Keller, and I don't recall this, but my mom says that after that play, all I did was talk about how I wanted to be Annie Sullivan. And so as I grew up and people would say, "Oh, Sandy, what do you want to do when you get bigger?" And I'd say, "I'm going to be Annie Sullivan." And they'd be like, "Who's Annie Sullivan?" And I'm like, "That's Helen Keller's teacher. And that's what I'm going to do." And I never wavered. When I was in high school, some of the guidance counselors were trying to steer me into some other fields. And I was like, "No, I need to go into the field of education because I'm going to be Annie Sullivan." So that's how I got started.
That's amazing how single-minded you've been since such a young age. So many people.
Bullheaded? Maybe
Yeah.
my dad would call
Single-minded sounds better. So you know Braille, and you also help people who are blind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I, went to college to learn how to teach students who are deaf and hard of hearing. And then I also went to a college in Pennsylvania, right on Broad Street. That was an interesting commute. And I, got a degree for teaching people who are blind. And part of that was learning Braille, which is actually more difficult for me than learning sign language because these random dots, the ABCs are easy, but Braille has so many contractions and rules. And using the long cane,
Right.
was another thing that I learned how to do. But my passion is really working with individuals who are both deaf and blind. So I've done that in the past in another church. I was interpreting for a brilliant young woman who was deaf blind, and I really started my church interpreting with her. So I give Krista a lot of credit.
So you mentioned that, have you ever actually signed into someone's hand? Like
Yes.
Annie Sullivan? What's that like?
Yes. And basically, some people who are considered blind have a little bit of residual vision, so they can still see a little bit. Other people who are blind can't see anything. So you have to know what the level of vision is for the person that you're interpreting for. So, if you were an individual who had some vision, then I would find out from you, where do you want me to stand? How close? Can you see my hands? I might have to move my hands into a different field if they had some darkness on one side and more light on the other. But for individuals who do not have any useful vision, then what you do is the person whose hand is on top is the listener. And so if I was going to sign something to them, my hand would be under their hand because I'm the talker. So the talker is underneath of the listener who's resting their hands on top. And then their hand just follows wherever. So if I do the sign for Lord, which is an L that goes from the shoulder down to the waist, their hand would follow from my shoulder down to my waist. Then when it's their turn to talk, we do this little patty cake thing where quickly my hand goes on top of their hand so they know I'm listening. I don't have to feel their hand, but it lets them know I'm paying attention to them.
Right.
And so it's very interesting when, I go out to dinner with an individual who's deaf blind and we're trying to eat and sign to each other. We get some nice looks from people passing by and some forks go flying.
I was going to say, does food fly?
Yes, because you're trying to communicate and eat and, it is something to see.
The people you mentioned that not everybody who's deaf and blind are like Helen Keller. And
Right.
Yeah. Talk about that. It must be a real challenge sometimes.
So a lot of times the insult to the brain that causes someone to be both deaf and blind has impacted other areas of the brain. Often it has impacted the cognition, maybe physical, sometimes emotional. And so ironically, my favorite students, not that teachers are ever supposed to have favorites, but my favorite students are the ones who have had the greatest impact. I love to try to reach what people call the unreachable. And so, give me the student who, has been sent home because their challenges are so great that the school is a scary place for them. And so maybe they hit out and bite people that come close to them because their world is dark and quiet. And they don't know, and somebody goes to touch them, well, that's a threat.
Right.
So you know what? I'm going to stop that threat. And so there's some individuals who can't be educated in the school because it's not safe for the other students or staff. Give me those students. Let me go into the homes and work with the families and let me help that child understand that there is a way to communicate in a way that doesn't involve something that's painful to others.
Can you tell us a story about a particular student and family? I know.
A million.
Pick one.
But, my favorite. It's funny. The hardest part is getting that first word, getting the student to understand language. You just have to get them to understand that using their hands will help them get what they want. So I always say to the parents, what is your child's all-time favorite thing? It's got to be something we can hold in our hand. What is it? It's always chocolate cake. Always, always chocolate cake. And so I go with the chocolate cake and I sit on the floor because it's going to be messy. I sit with the child and I give them a bite of chocolate cake. And they want more chocolate cake. And they can't see me and they can't hear me. And so they're going to grapple to find the chocolate cake. And so I always have my hair up in a ponytail. So they're reaching for the chocolate cake and my eyes and everything else that's in the way. And I get their hands, even though they do not want me to touch them. I let them feel my hand signing cake, right? And so I'm signing cake and then I give them a bite of chocolate cake. Then I get their hand and I put their hand on top of mine because I don't want them to feel like I'm forcing their hand. So I want them to feel my hand. It's not as threatening. If I'm grabbing their hand and I'm trying to make them do something with their hand, that's scary. But if I just slide my hand underneath of theirs and I sign cake, they're going to feel me doing that. And then I give them a piece and then I give them a piece. And then they want more. I'm going to pause and I'm going to try to get them to do something. And I'm going to try to get them, I'll hold my hand there and then they might tap my hand or they might.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. The first step is building a connection. Yes, I have something that you dearly want, but I want to hear your voice through your hands.
Right.
So yeah, that's That's how it
amazing.
starts. Once in a while, a parent will say, "Oh, here's their favorite ball." And I'm like, "Thank goodness." Their chocolate cake.
Um, Tell us about, how did you get connected to Epworth? I think there's a Super Bowl involved. Tell us that story. I want to know how you do sporting events anyway. I can't imagine.
So I happened to be at Irish Eyes right in Lewis,
Hmm.
and I was at a deaf Super Bowl event. And so there was a community of deaf individuals
Hmm.
that go to Irish Eyes. And so they watch the Super Bowl game and they, have a nice party. And I was there and I was interpreting because the host at Irish Eyes was talking about how to win the prizes.
Hmm.
And so I was interpreting
Hmm.
for the deaf members
Hmm.
there. And
So you didn't have to do a play-by-play.
I did not have to do a
Okay.
play. They were watching the football
Okay.
game.
Okay.
I was not doing a play-by-play. I was interpreting what the hostess was talking about, how they could win the TV, which was the
Uh-huh.
big prize.
Yeah.
And so I was interpreting that for the deaf members that were there, the deaf community
Hmm.
members. And so after the party, a gentleman came up to me and he said, he signed, "We need you at Epworth." And I was like, "What do you need?" "We need an interpreter. And I want you to come and be the interpreter because your expressions, I understand you."
For
And
sure.
so that's how it all started. I happened to be at a Super Bowl party and somebody asked me if I could do something. I have a very hard time saying no to anyone.
And that was how many years ago?
You know what? It was pre-COVID
Yeah.
because I remember during COVID making videos,
Hmm.
signing from my home. I mean, it's been over 6 years for sure because I remember making those videos out of my home.
How do you prepare for a service like, well, today there were a bunch of Old Testament names and some pretty long names. What's the hardest part about signing a worship service?
You know what? I've interpreted in so many different places, and Epworth truly is my favorite place to interpret. I mean, kudos to all of those that make it such a pleasant experience. The whole idea of interpreting is that you want to relay an equal message. Okay. So if you're in a situation that's not such a happy occasion,
Hmm.
you're looking somber and you're
Hmm.
trying to give an equal message. You want the deaf people to understand exactly the same way that the hearing people do. And so when people say to me, "Oh, you did such a great job," and I'm like, Reverend Vicky, Reverend Bo, Doug, the choir, the praise
Hmm.
team, all the ministers, they did the great job. My job is only to try to help the deaf members get the same message.
Hmm.
That's the whole role of being an interpreter. So when Reverend Bo's throwing himself down on the stage, right?
That was going to be my next question.
I have to throw myself down on the stage. But it's not me. I'm not doing anything but turning what this community is doing into sign language.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So the hardest part. The hardest part is when there's this really long name or something that is in Hebrew that I have no clue how to spell. In fact, today I was signing to our deaf member sitting in front of me. I'm like, Hebrew word, don't know how to spell. My guess. And then I would try to do it, and she just
Your
laughs at
secret's
me.
out.
Yes, yes. So sometimes
I
I
didn't
just have
notice
to
you
wing
two
it
having a little conversation.
because I was like, I'm spelling it wrong. I know I'm spelling it wrong. And so it's wonderful when those that are doing the readings, when they pause after a really long name, because they were talking about some town. And, here, I write it on a little Post-it so I know how to spell it. That was
Right.
today. Because in sign language, in American Sign Language, there's shortcuts, right?
Hmm.
You can have the word cat, and the sign for cat looks like this. It's whiskers, right? And that's a shortcut. It's quick. You can just go like that and cat is done. But if you had to spell it out, CAT, that's finger spelling. Okay. So names like this town that was in the reading today,
Has to be spelled.
it has to be spelled out in full. There's no shortcut for it. Now, they can make a shortcut for like some of the common places. Galilee is G Town. But anyway.
As opposed to Georgetown.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, getting the spelling right. But I guess the hardest part is listening and making sure you transition what you hear into American Sign Language, which is very different than signed English. So signed English is just sticking a sign to each word. If you said it was raining cats and dogs, then I would sign, it is raining cats and dogs, right? There's a sign for each word.
Yeah.
But is it really raining cats and dogs? There's not cats and dogs falling out of the sky, right?
Right.
So signed English is English. American Sign Language is a different language. And so it's kind
It's an
of like,
interpretation.
yeah, like when you're changing something from English into Spanish, right? You're changing the whole structure.
Right.
So English has a word order one way. In American Sign Language, the word order is time, topic, conversation, right? So I have to think, okay, the time we're talking about, what's the topic? We're talking about this. And you have to move around the sentence in your brain and then you sign it.
Right.
And so it's not really raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
It's raining really hard. So you're not even signing cats and dogs. You're signing it's raining really, really, really hard.
Right.
So it takes a little time to do that. So you have to be very good at listening. And sometimes some people talk really fast and you have to hold lots of stuff in your head.
I worry about that sometimes with you. Some people just like,
but it's cool. It's great
Yeah.
exercise too.
Here's a question I had, and others have had it. Sometimes your facial expressions, I just love to watch them. It seems like they're not over exaggerated. Sometimes when you see people interpreting, the expressions are like incredibly exaggerated, almost comical, like they're just so like over the top.
The question is, are the speakers expression like what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to give an equal message,
Right. Okay.
right? So if somebody is signing and their expressions are over exaggerated, the question is the person who's talking, are they over exaggerating, over enunciating? Is their volume high?
It's
Because
normally when a politician is speaking, so that maybe that answers the
that
question.
answers the question. Yes. So, when people come up to me after the service and make a comment about my interpreting, I'm like, oh no, that was all the praise team.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that song looked so good. Because guess what? If the praise team was botching the song up,
Yeah.
I have to botch it up in sign language. I literally do. It has to look just as
That
bad.
kind of happened today. We missed our cue, but that's
But, if somebody stumbles over a word, I have to sign that. If somebody over on the right side says amen to something, I have to point to that person and sign amen. I have to take in.
You have to make us look bad.
No. But you just have to give the person who is deaf the same understanding.
Right.
That everybody else has the same, they call it access,
Right.
equal access.
Cool. Well, who watches you? Sometimes there aren't any deaf people in attendance.
So apparently some people in Zimbabwe are watching. Carol Stevens, I don't know if you remember her,
No.
but a lot of people remember sweet Carol Stevens. She's in a different state now, but she's the one who has been my mentor in the church ministry. And she has been over to Zimbabwe. And so she apparently got us over there somehow technologically.
Wow.
So there's different people. Also, there's some people who are staying at home because of illness.
Right.
And so they can watch. Some
Right.
people stay at home because the gas prices have skyrocketed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so other people actually have told me that they watch from home because they can see it on their large screen TV and understand it better. It's like people who go to watch a sporting event in person, right?
Right.
And they can't really see what's happening on the
No, they're
field.
way up there.
Your best seat is when you're in your own house
Yeah,
watching it, right?
right.
So, I mean, the technology that Epworth has instituted to make this deaf ministry happen is just amazing.
Yeah, talk about the seating. Because I sat there one time, was not expecting what happened when people started playing music.
Okay, I'm not sure who coined the term butt kickers, but somebody did. So some wonderful person or group of people in Epworth before my time decided that it would be really cool if our members who were deaf and hard of hearing could feel the music. You know, if you can't hear it, wouldn't it be cool if you could feel it? And so they were able to get these devices that they have mounted on this plank of wood
Right.
under the chairs in that front row. And so when the music plays, you can feel it. It vibrates. Your chair is vibrating.
Surprised me.
So, you know, they can feel the music starting. Oh, that's my key to stand up and get, you know,
Yeah,
moving.
I do feel like you're not just an afterthought, that you're really, that there's Epworth goes out of its way to make sure that you get what you need and the people that you serve get what they need. Yeah.
It's amazing. And I mean, our members who are deaf have been ushers, they have been readers, they have been Eucharistic ministers, they've done it all. And so it's wonderful to participate that way.
What's your relationship like with the people you serve here at Epworth?
So, you know, my role is to help them access everything that there is to enjoy here at Epworth. And so like today, I didn't get here right after the service, because if I ran here right after the service, then the deaf member who was here wasn't going to be able to communicate with, you know, anyone.
Tell us about your family and how you wound up in Rehoboth. And you mentioned that your children knew how to sign and your grandchildren know how to sign. Talk about that a little bit.
So I'm a native.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Delaware, and I'm still here because it still is a small wonder. So I was born in Newcastle County, and loving parents, raised Christian, always. You know, my father, every week when the trash collectors would come, he would run out and give them cold sodas.
That's how
Every
nice,
week.
yeah.
My mother, I watched her making shepherd's pie. She still does it. She's in her 80s. She's still making shepherd's pie. She's still crocheting baby blankets for the women's shelter. And so I was raised in an environment where you love everyone. And I grew up in the church, and I started seeing some people come to church, and there was this adorable little boy who was deaf, and his family was bringing him. And so an interpreter decided, hey, this child needs access, started interpreting. Then I started being her like little assistant. I wasn't ready for the big time. Church is a very forgiving place.
Absolutely.
To begin
Tell me
interpreting.
about it.
And so, you know, it's like, okay, the other interpreter's doing all of it, and all I have to do is amen. I can do that. So you start small. I always tell my interns who are afraid to like stand up in front of the class and sign, I'm like, you got to go to church. Everybody's so forgiving at church. And so what happened is that after I got my degrees and started teaching, I was asked if I would be part of a statewide team that serves individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf blind. And my focus was the individuals who are deaf blind. And so I was traveling to support the children who weren't at the Delaware School for the Deaf.
Right.
They were in their mainstream home schools. And so I would have to drive down here, and my parents had a little place, still do, on the Rehoboth Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would come on the weekends in the station wagon, you know, with the family of six and the dog in tow. And we would come on the weekends and I'd go fishing with my dad. And so I was used to coming down here, and this was always a happy place. You know,
Right.
this is where you left your quarrels with your siblings at home and you had the dog sitting on your toes and you came down to Rehoboth, Lewis, and you just had fun.
Yeah.
And so I always loved it down here.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I started working on the statewide team and I was driving
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to see some students down here, I'm like, hey, I'm an adult. Why don't I move down here? And so I just kept moving down the state. You know, I went in the middle and then I finally landed where I want to be.
Yeah. Tell us about you've mentioned that your kids and grandkids sign.
So I have two lovely children, and Samantha and Jake, I taught them to sign when they were born because it's easier to sign than it is to talk. And so motor skills are easier than language skills. They come along more quickly. And, you know, my daughter was telling the pediatrician when she was just 8 months old that his stethoscope was too cold.
In sign language?
In sign language, because that's cold.
Yeah.
And she had learned cold before she could say cold. And so, you know, my son has come here and he actually went out on some boating trips with one of the deaf members and can communicate just fine with the sign language that he still remembers. And so I had a granddaughter, you know, she's going to be 2 in August. And so naturally, I started doing sign language with her and my daughter started. And it was so funny. I was over their house the other day and my granddaughter Rose heard the helicopter outside. And so she does the sign for helicopter. And so I was like, yes, I hear the helicopter. And I'm doing the sign for helicopter. And she looks over and she says, Dad, sign it. So she's teaching her dad how to sign. So her dad's like, okay, my 1.5-year-old is teaching me how to sign. Thank you, Rose. Helicopters.
That's amazing.
So my grandson is due in the next week or two, and I'm sure that Rose will be teaching him how to sign.
Absolutely. Do you ever teach sign language?
So the best teachers for sign language are not me. Even though I have 40 years in the field, the best teachers are those who are native speakers. People who are deaf. People who are deaf are the best ASL teachers. And when somebody says, oh, will you teach a sign language class? I'll be like, I will be an assistant to a deaf person because the best instructor is somebody who uses the language, just
Right.
like if you're learning any language, like Italian. I'm trying to learn Italian now, which is harder than sign language. And so the best
It's like an immersion
instructors,
thing.
yes,
Yeah.
are the people who have lived it. This is their native language. So you know, Del Tech Community College, they had a wonderful deaf instructor who was teaching American Sign Language classes, and a couple of our members went to his sign language class.
I'd love to do that.
Yes. In fact, if anybody wants another little freebie way to learn sign language, there is a deaf man. He works with colleges and everything, Dr. Bill Vickers, and he has made a whole YouTube channel that's all free, and you can pull it up. You can just go to his website, which is even better because there's lessons 1, 2, 3.
When I learned French in high school or junior high, it was an immersion method where we did not translate. And I feel like I learned it a lot more fluently that way because we weren't allowed to translate. So it's
Exactly.
the same kind of thing. So, okay, you seem too young to be retired after 40 years. That just is blowing my mind, Sandy. So what, I know you're not really retired. You're doing many, many other things. What are you doing after you've retired from this school system?
Right. So I actually still work with the school systems. I retired so I can start collecting my pension.
Yeah.
I still do some consulting with the school systems as needed. And, you know, we did have some students that were losing their hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So they were used to talking in English. And so supporting families and helping the families and the students learn a new language
Mm-hmm.
before the hearing, is no longer useful
Right.
is something that I enjoy doing as well.
It's kind of sad. So
You
losing
know,
their hearing.
so I've I've had students that are losing their hearing and their vision,
Mm.
and it's just miraculous, actually.
Really?
Yes, to see what happens. In fact, there's a brother and sister. They were both born typically, progressing along until
Mm-hmm.
about the age of 2. Then they started having challenges with vision and hearing, and they stopped growing. And
Wow.
so they had some type of genetic syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and it was taking away their vision, their hearing, and their musculature,
Mm-hmm.
but not their brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with these siblings. I mean, just amazing. And to be able to look at your life and picture it in a different way, and the family. And the grandmother of these 2 children said that the best part of her week is when Jessica reads to the whole family from the Braille Bible
Wow.
that we got for her.
Mm-hmm.
She would sit there and I taught her Braille, and she was able to use her Braille Bible, which is huge. I don't know if you know anything about Braille.
Yeah,
Braille
I've
takes
seen
up
a
a
Braille
lot.
Bible.
It's like 20 volumes.
Yeah.
So Jessica would keep the Braille Bible
Mm-hmm.
under her bed and pull
Mm-hmm.
out one volume at a time. And so, you think that it's such a tragedy. And then you see that, wow, these 2 children have just opened so many eyes. People that interact with them will never see life the same way. You'll never take things for granted again. You're not going to complain that your steak was overcooked ever again after you meet Victor and Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
realize what's important in life.
Yeah. I think my last question of you is just you also, besides all the other things you do, you volunteer here at Epworth.
I am a proud member of Dottie's Soup Kitchen team.
Tell us
Okay.
about that.
Oh, it's an easy job because I chop, I lift pots, I do whatever Dottie tells me. So I don't have to think of what the menu's going to be. I don't have to know what the inventory is. And then I get to just interact with some really neat people from the community. I've met some families and different individuals who have come to the soup kitchen, and it changes my whole perspective on life. I remember when my children were younger and they started to feel their oats. They were teenagers. And I'm like, all right, you're coming with me on Sunday. And they're like, where? And I'm like, yep, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to help at the soup kitchen. And then it just gives them a new picture of, oh, yes, I do need to look a little deeper. And what warms my heart looking over and seeing my son sit down and eat cake with somebody from the community.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, I'm part of Team Dottie.
Yeah, Dottie knows she's coming on this podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Sooner rather than later. So, well, Sandy, I really thank you for your time. It's just been a pleasure you're so inspiring just to watch and talk to. And I wish you well in your non-retirement. So much for retirement. It's kind of like me. I decided to start a podcast, But anyway, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in church.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just going to teach you how to do one thing.
Okay.
I want you to hold up your thumb, your index finger, and your pinky, and leave the other 2 down. Okay.
Like that?
Yep. Do you know what that is?
Hook 'em horns.
That means I love you.
Oh,
This is the I, the pinky's the
yeah.
I, and this is the L, and this is the Y.
Okay.
So that's the sign for I love
That's
you.
all I have to do?
That's it.
To say I love you?
Yes.
It's easy. It starts here. Thank you for listening to Faith, Hope, and Stories. This episode was produced by Leanne Walling. For more information on Epworth United Methodist Church, please go to our website at epworth.faith.